Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. This is a special episode. Um, this will be my review of the Acolyte. I have been saving my thoughts overall on the Acolyte for a while now because I want to talk about the show as a whole, as well as discuss the reaction I've seen to the show from people who I question are even Star Wars fans. I just something about it. I've seen responses from people that I've never seen responses from before. I've seen videos from channels like doing reaction videos that are complaining about the dumbest shit just to complain. And it's like, I'm not talking about the bigger YouTube channels like Blind Wave who are just reacting to the show, giving their thoughts, and they seem to overall like the show. I'm talking about small creators that get all the way up to maybe 1,000 views who are reacting to the show and just giving reactions to stuff that does not matter, or reactions that just sound like they're only saying it because they think people will watch the video more if they say it. Personally, there was one reaction I saw that made me audibly go, "Oh, fuck off," and I disliked it and stopped watching because I don't even remember what he said now, and this was literally like an hour ago that this happened. But just, I think it was, he said something about how episode 8 was starting right off of where episode 6 left off, and he went, Are you kidding me? They're starting the episode immediately off of episode 6. Oh, shoot. And it's like, what's the problem? Did you think there was going to be some giant time gap? So anyways, let me start from the beginning. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this show, oh, my phone is almost done charging. Wow. This show started, and I watched the first couple episodes, and I thought to myself, oh, this isn't too bad. I was a little worried before the show came out. Early reviewers were saying that it kind of gave an Obi-Wan show kind of vibe, and I was kind of worried because Obi-Wan had a really sluggish, boring first few episodes, and then like really picked up towards the end. So I was a little worried on that part. But overall, the show starts, and I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. We start with an action scene on a planet I've never seen before. It's pretty cool to see a lot of wire work. Because, these are Jedi, especially during the High Republic era. So I would assume that they would be using the Force to do these like massive jumps and all these cool moves that only a Jedi could pull off. So let's see, because I didn't have any notes for the second episode, so clearly it's just like an episode I didn't care much about. But yeah, I liked the first scene. I liked that they introduced Venestra from the High Republic books. They don't really do much with her character until the very end of the show. But overall, I liked her inclusion. It kind of ties it a little bit more to the High Republic. And there are sprinkles of references to the High Republic here and there in the show. Like, Andara at one point mentions that the planet Brendok had all of its life wiped out by a hyperspace accident, or incident, I think is what she says, which is a direct reference to the inciting incident in the High Republic novels, when the Nihil cause a hyperspace accident, which is like not supposed to be able to happen in hyperspace. So I do like the inclusion of little details that call back to the High Republic novels, and it really ties it together with that era. So I liked the first episode, and I liked the inclusion of the Trade Federation. Kind of gave it a little bit of a hint towards this is clearly leading into the prequel era. We're going to include characters that you're familiar with. This is obviously before they gain a lot of power in the Republic, so they're on this little freighter trying to hide the fact that they're illegally hiring humans to do... I don't know what that noise was. They're illegally hiring humans to do work that droids are only legally allowed to do on ships. And I do like that they kind of... I've heard some criticism about this, and I'm kind of mixed on it sometimes. I think it just depends on what mood I'm in, on whether or not I like this part. On one hand, I kind of like that they solve the kind of mystery of who did it early on, but I also wish there was a little bit more build-up. I'm not a big fan anymore of the I'm being framed type of stories. I'm not a big fan of those anymore. It's been done too much, and I'm just kind of like over it. Anytime a story is leading into the oh no, this person's being framed for a crime, I'm like, oh my god, come on. I think the last time I was okay with that was Spider-Man No Way Home. Since then, I'm like, all right, it's played out. Can we put it to rest? I'm tired of this trope. But so I and then I watched the second episode. The second episode, my only criticism is that I think the first two episodes could have been consolidated into one episode. And I had this criticism with Tales of the Empire, and I think a lot of people would agree with this take with the Acolyte, because it's not just these two episodes I think should have been combined into one. I think that episode 4 and 5 should have been a single episode. They're even titled in a way that makes it seem like it's two episodes split apart. And I get the thematic significance behind that, but it's like, just make the episode really long. If that's the story you're trying to tell, just double the episode length and put it all in that episode. But I think the first two episodes could have been combined, if not just written in a way where the second episode wasn't necessary. I think the ship, like the prisoners escaping the prisoner transport ship whole plot line in the grand scheme of the show, fairly pointless. All it did was just crash her down onto a planet and kind of establish that she has a twin sister. It basically solidified that it cannot be Osha that's murdering the Jedi. It has to be the introduction of a twin sister. And, twin sister. So, that was my main critique, is that the second episode is just very pointless in its existence. All it does is establish Jecki and Yord. Or I should say the beginning of the second episode is pretty pointless. But it establishes Jecki and Yord, so it has that significance. I do like the latter half of the second episode with Kymir and May. I like that dynamic, and I like the reveal later on. Kymir is very clearly like the foolish oaf that Yoda was trying to be in The Empire Strikes Back. But that's one of my thoughts on the first two episodes. That parts could have been cut, like the prisoner escape scene. That whole sequence could have been erased. They could have just brought her to Coruscant, and then once Torben died, they realize, okay, it's not Osha. It's clearly this twin that Sol is keeping from the council. Yeah, so I go on Twitter after I'm done watching these episodes, and I see that people are critiquing the ship being on fire. Now, look, ships have been catching on fire in Star Wars for decades. This is not a new phenomenon. Can you criticize the fact that the fire is burning like a campfire, which physically wouldn't be a thing? I guess. I think it's a little nitpicky, but objectively, yes, you can critique the fact that the fire is burning oxygen around it when there is no oxygen. So the visual of the fire is wrong, but the fire itself is not inconsistent with what's happened in Star Wars before. The other thing was that people were going, oh, how is she hearing sound in space? And this is one of the first instances of, I think the education system in this country has failed the greater public. Media literacy is at an all-time low. One, there has been sound in space in Star Wars before. George Lucas is famous for saying he's the guy that made it where there's sounds in space, and the TIE fighter makes a sound in space, and ships coming out of hyperspace make a sound, or the when they take off. So there's been sound in space before. The hyperspace whales make sound in space, but that's part of Ahsoka and Rebels, so people are gonna say, oh, well, what about the original 6 movies? And I would argue, yes, the TIE fighters. And the sound of like the of the lasers coming off of ships, and explosions happen in space that you can hear. But that's not even what's happening in that scene. What's happening in that scene is Osha's hearing a flashback to her time as a child when her home is burned down. So it's not even a real sound happening in that moment. It's the sound of fire coming from the flashback. So if the fire had made a sound, it would have been consistent with Star Wars. It didn't make a sound, so it doesn't even matter at all because it's coming from a flashback. And a lot of people missed that it's coming from a flashback. So you'll see that this is the beginning of brain rot from the wider Star Wars community. Episode 3 has a lot of brain rot with it that pissed me off because it's just the alt-right crowd crying woke at another Disney project, which, come on. But episode 4, you'll see, will flip the public opinion a little bit more because of how crazy they went after this episode. That so much so that the general Star Wars community seemed to kind of start to change their tune and be against the people criticizing the show for dumb reasons. And then, like, obviously, episode 5 brought the girlies on board, and they started liking the show. So overall, incel Star Wars fans lost the battle. But so episode 3 comes out, and it's it's from Osha's perspective. So it's a very childlike, devoid of context perspective of Osha and May's origin story. And they, it's like clear there's this witch coven that has gone into exile on this planet. There are no men in the coven. And so my immediate thought was that, oh, well, then they created these children using the Force to extend the coven, to continue it on into the future. That was one of my theories, was that was why. And it's kind of implied that that's why in the episode. At least from Osha's perspective. That's not how the wider audience saw it. I didn't mind the episode. I do think the fact that it was missing context bothered me a little bit, but it just made me want to see the real context more. But I can see how that would bother people. So, the woke crowd, or the anti-woke crowd, came in. And interesting. And the storyline, these people are basically like crying about like space lesbians. That's their whole critique here. It's under a tweet about lightsaber combat, saying this is how fast lightsaber combat would actually be according to the lore. And that it's slowed down for our perspective. That's the tweet. An unrelated reply from a bot saying how far the franchise has fallen, and it's this stupid picture of Anakin, Luke, like an AI generated picture of Luke, and then Mother Anastasia from the Acolyte. And it says, in the prequels, Anakin becomes a powerful Force user corrupted by the dark side. In the originals, Luke learns to use the Force to save the galaxy. In the Acolyte, space lesbians use the Force to have a baby. Now, if that's your interpretation of that episode, you are severely brain dead, because they make it very clear in the episode that the motivations of them creating the children is to continue the coven. That it has nothing to do with space lesbians having a baby. It has everything to do with them manipulating the Force in unnatural dark side ways to create children to continue their coven, because there are no men in the coven. So someone says, wasn't Anakin a baby of the Force too? Basically being like, Anakin was created by the supposedly by the failing Force practices of Plagueis and Palpatine. This person responds, yes, but an entire storyline wasn't later invented around a lesbian couple using the Force because they want to have a baby. That is not the storyline. And I respond saying the story isn't, quote, two lesbians want to have a baby, end quote. It's witches using the Force to blah, blah. You've already heard me say it. And I even say it's made very clear that they were almost driven to extinction and are in hiding. There is a serious problem with the fan reaction to this show. I think someone even pointed out that before episode 8 dropped, it had already been review bombed on IMDb. So the fan reaction to this show has been extreme. From what I've heard, this is the second most popular Disney Plus show, so we're probably getting a season 2. And I just don't get it. The creator of this show is a huge Legends fan, arguably a bigger fan of Legends than Dave Filoni is. She introduced a ton of Legends material into the show. She introduced Plagueis in the last episode and kept him as a Mun, and even kept his like signature look from the books and comics. Sorry, I'm having mental brain rot block right now. She reintroduced Cortosis, which is briefly mentioned in a Darth Vader comic, but is mostly from Legends. The planet Chimera is hiding on is more than likely the planet from Legends that Plagueis and Tenebris go to, that Tenebris is ultimately killed on, that has Cortosis naturally occurring there. She introduced a lot of interesting lore stuff from Legends into this show. But it pisses me off when people boil down the story to it was a couple Force lesbians wanting to have a child. I really do detest that really simplified version of the storyline. But so my only critique of the third episode is that I feel like it was kind of hampered down by the fact that it's from the perspective of Osha. But I think it's cool that they were going for that type of style. I forgot, I think it's like Rishimon or something like that. I forgot what it's actually called. There's a style that it is based on where you show a story from two different perspectives. So that was kind of neat. Episode 4 rolls around. My only critique of episode 4 is that it's just a lot of like walking around and saying exposition. I think, we didn't really need to see the whole walking around thing. I guess in a way it kind of explored the Chimera May relationship and kind of set us up for him eventually being revealed to be the stranger. And it also gave us a little bit more to explore with Jecki and Yord. But I don't think that it needed to be the full episode of them walking. You definitely could have combined episode 4 and 5. But the big community reaction, that's my big critique. The big community reaction is that Ki-Adi Mundi shows up in the episode, a character that does not have a canon birthday, that still technically doesn't. We still don't know how old he is. We just know that he is as old as the Acolyte show. So he's over 100 in the Phantom Menace. And by the time he dies in the Clone Wars, we know that he is a pretty much either a Padawan or a Jedi Knight. I can't remember if he has the braid or not. But in the episode, he shows up. It is now established that he is older than he was in Legends. Who cares? He's a side character that no one even really liked in the first place, that was simply there to be memed on. If you follow the books and stuff, he is a deranged psychopath. So, in one of the more brutal Jedi generals during the Clone Wars, that's like his main, like, known thing about his character. And so in the Phantom Menace, he says, the Sith have been extinct for a millennia. In the briefing room in the Acolyte, they never mention the Sith. They just mention that a rogue Force user, possibly a fallen Jedi, is, possibly training May to kill these Jedi. And they are all connected to the Brendok incident. Which is technically true that Chimere is indeed a fallen Jedi, and we don't know for sure yet if he's Plagueis' Sith Lord apprentice, or if he's being stalked by Plagueis because he's a potential rival. We don't know yet. So, not at any point was Ki-Adi-Mundi made aware that the Sith have returned. And it's made clear throughout the whole show, by the time it's over, that there has been a conceited effort to hide the possibility of there being a Sith out there. I don't know why I'm holding the lighter, by the way. So, people go to the Wikipedia article to update the fact that he's now older than what was stated in Legends. Canonically, he is alive as far back as 132 BBY. Very understandable. It's now canon due to the Acolyte. We know it's Ki-Adi-Mundi. That's who he's credited as. We also know that that was not Plo Koon in that episode, and we found out the next episode it's definitely not Plo Koon because that character died. But people went to the Wikipedia page, started mass changing it back to 92 BBY being his birthday because of the Legends card game, and then started sending death threats to the editors of Wikipedia. So they had to lock down the article, put his new established age back in the article, and lock it down, to the point where even Wikipedia had to tweet out condemning the people sending death threats. And so this is the this is the tweet that they tweeted out. And this was the point where they started to lose. This is the point where the crazy people criticizing the show started to lose credibility with a lot of general Star Wars fans, the general audience, and High Republic fans, when they flipped out this bad over a side character's potential age. So there are many things with this. One, let's say Ki-Adi-Mundi finds out that the Sith have returned. He could have been he could have been implicated in the cover-up. He's on the High Council in the prequels. It's obvious by the end of the show that Yoda is at least made aware that there's been a cover-up. Potentially in season 2, we will see even more of a effort to cover up Chimere's existence. What else? Oh. I've also written down that he is wrong in every single appearance he has besides the Clone Wars. And he's even wrong in an episode of the Clone Wars. In the Clone Wars, he literally goes along with Ahsoka being banished from the Order. In the movies, he says the Sith have been extinct for millennia, really signifying that in the Jedi's hubris, they were blind to the rise of the Sith. He then says that in episode 2, Dooku is a political idealist, not a murderer, just as wrong because Dooku is a Sith Lord that has killed countless people, including now we know Yaddle in Tales of the Jedi. And then he just says some shit about what about the droid attack on the Wookiees. I mean, that's such a nothing line. He has like one line per movie. And then he fucking dies in Order 66. But yeah, his character is known for being incredibly wrong on many things throughout Star Wars. Also, people did not react like this when they changed Qui-Gon Jinn's birthday and home planet. Qui-Gon Jinn is now 20 years younger than he was in Legends, and he was born on Coruscant, which I don't believe he had a birth planet in Legends that was established. So I didn't see anybody have a comment about that back when that was became a thing. You know, Tales of the Jedi releases, Dooku mentions that Qui-Gon is a young boy from Coruscant. No one even bats an eye. What did Star Wars Theory have a comment? I linked this in my doc. I don't know what I did.
I can't wait to see what people are gonna. What are people gonna say to defend this? Oh, I don't know. You guys are just toxic. You just hate you're sexist. Bro, why is Kiani Mundi here? He's not supposed to be here. He would have right away, man. He would have, the same guy. Man, it's fuck this show, man. The same guy that literally in episode 1 is like, oh, the Sith haven't shown up for 1,000 years. It's the same guy corroborating and keep.
This motherfucker is supposed to be Star Wars Theory, the know-all lore master of Star Wars. And in the last few years, he's gone from making decent lore videos like Stupendous Wave does to now crying about modern Star Wars every chance he gets. This is the same guy that had a problem with Andor because there were bricks and screws in the show. This is the same guy that claims Ahsoka stole his script because they had Ahsoka rise up through the water because she had just fallen into the ocean. And there's a thematic theme there. It's a very common trope. Same guy. So I'm not surprised that he's crying about this. It's also surprising no one was paying attention during the show. I've already mentioned it, that no one brings up the word Sith in that press room, and that not once does Ki-Adi-Mundi think it's a Sith Lord. He never shows up again in the show, by the way. So he barely has any involvement in this mystery plot. He canonically has nothing preventing him from showing up there. I forgot, who did they say they were going to have instead? I think they said something about they wanted Yoda to be in that scene, and that they reversed course on that to not take attention away from the show by adding in a needless Yoda cameo. And I kind of get that. Even though they put Plagueis and Yoda in the last episode, I don't see a whole lot of people focusing on just that. I see a lot of people focusing on the potential implications of a season 2 because of the connection with Venestra and the Senate oversight plotline and all that stuff. So in the introduction of the Chancellor of the High Republic era during 132 BBY, that was an interesting new piece of lore we've now gotten, because this is his only appearance and his only mention and the only time we've seen him. And I'll get to that because I actually really like that. I'm a big lore guy. I love lore. But there's nothing canonically preventing Ki-Adi-Mundi from being in that scene. And it's clear that they wanted to include a character like Ki-Adi-Mundi to show that in the Jedi's hubris, not once did anyone in that room think to suggest that maybe the Sith have returned. Maybe. The whole point of this show and the Phantom Menace is to show that at no point did the Jedi think that the Sith have come back, which is one of the major flaws of how arrogant the Jedi are. You know, the whole time in the Phantom Menace and in Tales of the Jedi, the Jedi Order, the Jedi High Council don't really believe that Qui-Gon encountered a Sith Lord. They just think it's somebody trained in the Jedi arts. They don't really believe that it could be a Sith Lord. Jocasta Nu says to Dooku in the Jedi Archives that Qui-Gon had quite the imagination, meaning that she barely believes him. Yaddle says the exact same thing, that the Council is cautious to accept that it could possibly be a Sith Lord. It's not until Maul kills Qui-Gon Jinn and is then killed by Obi-Wan that the High Council accepts that it's probably a Sith Lord. And then it's revealed during the funeral that Yoda knows about the Rule of Two, which technically he shouldn't know, because the Rule of Two is created to keep the Sith hidden. Why would Yoda know that? The Acolyte could possibly shed light on just how much Yoda knows behind the scenes about the Sith. There's even a look that Mace Windu gives Yoda in the Phantom Menace when Keanu Mundi says the thing about the Sith being extinct. Mace Windu kind of looks at Yoda like, but we kind of know that they're not, in a weird way. That's the implication of that look. Also, Yoda is known for hiding stuff from the Senate and keeping stuff hush on the High Council. So, you know, like not wanting to inform the Senate that the Jedi have lost the ability to use the Force adequately. Not wanting to inform the Senate that the clones were created by Count Dooku, who is revealed to be Darth Tyrannus. So, anyways, I need to move on. I'm harping on this subject for a little too long. But I loved episode 5. Dope ass lightsaber fight, one of the best in Star Wars I've seen in a long time. I love the prequel-esque type of fighting with the addition of Force moves being incorporated, which you don't really see a lot of in the prequels, which you could chalk it up to the Jedi not being as in tune with the Force. Thus, they wouldn't really be as trained in using it during combat, which I think is a cool way to think about it. So I do like the fact that they use the Force a lot more in fights in this show. It makes a lot of sense for the High Republic era. The only critique I ever saw of this, because it kind of died down that week, was that someone said that May force pushed Osha. She falls 2 feet off a step and gets knocked out, which is not true. She force pushes her and she hits a rock. It was just shot in a really weird, odd way, but it's very obvious that she's force pushed into a rock and is knocked out by the rock. May's saying she's going to turn herself in. The reason why she then doesn't is because she's going to turn herself in, so they'll take her to Coruscant so she can get as far away from Chimere as possible and live, because she'll be in a Republic prison. And the reason why in the next episode she fights back against Jeki is because now her goal is to get off the planet, because now she realizes Chimere, or the Stranger, as far as she's aware at that point, that the Stranger is there and knows of this plan. So now she has to devise a new plan to get off the planet. And if the Jedi capture her now her master, whatever he's considered, would be able to track her down to Coruscant. That and like he would just kill both of them right then and there, because we then see Jeki dies, so she clearly couldn't hold much of a fight, let alone get a prisoner back to the ship, which was like I forget how long they said the walk was, but they do mention that the walk is pretty long. I liked episode 6. I didn't see a whole lot of critiques of that one. I just really liked it. I liked the Empire Strikes Back-esque way that they frame Chimere on the island with Osha. And I like that the show makes Chimere convincing enough where you go, damn, I'm kind of siding with the dark side users now. I'm not a huge fan of the Jedi anymore. And it kind of made me forget that Chimere could just be deceiving her. So I really enjoyed that part of the episode. I think that episode's actually perfect. I really don't have many issues. With episode 7, it's just the Jedi's perspective of the Witch Coven, episode 3. I don't know if I would have placed this episode this close to the finale, but I guess it's okay. You know, there's a wider. I think the Torben motivation should have been explored a little bit more. That he wanted to go home to Coruscant, and that he was a arrogant, pretty ignorant Jedi Padawan up to that point. And it explains why he takes the oath, because of his actions directly led to the death of an entire witch coven. But I wish his motivation was explored a little bit more. He's the only one in the group with a selfish desire that directly involves him. The other Jedi, like Andara, wants to leave them alone. Kilnaka doesn't really have an opinion. And then Soul is like, in a weird, twisted way, his intentions are pure, but it is still a little selfish in practice. But in his mind, he's committing the selfless act of saving this girl from a witch coven that he doesn't understand. But I like the episode. I have a tweet in my doc. Oh, it was episode 7 that was review bombed before it came out. Yeah. So episode 7 of The Acolyte already had 89 negative reviews before it even came out. So you know, it's just a little whoa. But yeah, it was already being review bombed before it came out. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind that episode too much. It was interesting to see. I liked the stuff with Coral. I assume she's still alive, so I'm curious to see if she'll show up in season 2. But I kind of doubt it that she'll show up. But yeah, episode 7 was like fine, I guess. Yeah, I think my only critique is that I wish Torben had been fleshed out a little bit further. I do like that we got to see sort of like what a mind trick looks like visualized. That's how I was seeing everybody describe it. That the scene with Torben and Mother Anastasia, where she's like convincing him that he wants to go home to Coruscant, and all he needs to do is just let her take him home. So she kind of plants the idea of going home in his head, like even further than it already was. And I do like that. I like the visualization of what a mind trick looks like in real time. I would assume that's kind of what it would look like whenever like Obi-Wan mind tricks somebody, or Qui-Gon mind tricks somebody. It's kind of like going into their head and kind of torturing them into having a certain way of thinking, which really calls into question the morality behind Jedi mind tricks. But so episode 8 drops. I really liked episode 8. I liked the inclusion of Plagueis. They kept him as a Mun. It implies that he is around during this period. We don't know if Tenebris ever existed, but we know that Plagueis existed. He's on this planet, which makes sense. It's in line with his Legends counterpart. I wonder if he's Chimere's master, or if he's a rival to Chimere. That like maybe Chimere is his apprentice, and he would be revealed as like Darth Venomous or something like that. That would be kind of cool, because that would be like Plagueis' first apprentice before Palpatine. In Legends he did have more than one apprentice, so that would line up. I think he did have more than one apprentice, right? But yeah, I like the inclusion of Plagueis. I like that the creator left his species the same, because we were speculating for a bit maybe Chimera was Plagueis, that they wouldn't keep the species. But I do like that they kept it. That's kind of cool. That's what I'm saying, man. Leslie Headland, big Legends fan. Like, she's a huge Legends fan. And she kept a lot of it consistent with stuff from Legends. Like, she brought up a lot of Legends material that is now canon because of her. So I love that. I love that she did that. You can tell that she's actually a fan of Legends. That she would try to preserve as much as she could while writing a new story for the era. So you can't just like bring in Legends material from a different era and completely fuck up the High Republic timeline. So she really merged it in a way that made sense and worked with the current canon. I did like that. I do like seeing the stuff on Coruscant during this era. I love Coruscant, and I love learning new stuff about the Republic of this era. I wish we had seen, and this goes into my Venestra not being fleshed out enough in the season, especially because it seems like she'll be the main focus of the second season. I wish the threat of the Senate creating an oversight committee for the Jedi was established earlier on. I wish it had been established in like episode 2. Because then it would have really set up how much Venestra was trying to keep from the High Council, so it didn't have to be reported to the Senate. And I do like that senator brought up Chancellor Drellick, and then you actually get to see Chancellor Drellick. Let me pull up a picture. He's the first non-human chancellor, I believe, we've gotten in the canon, and I believe he's also the first non-human live-action chancellor. Of course, I have something spelled wrong in my doc, but Chancellor Drellick looks like this guy. Let me pull it up. Look at this man. He looks cool as fuck. He looks sick. He actually looks practical. I don't think he is, but he looks practical. 'Cause that's really realistic looking hair. And like the skin and all that, the details on that, details on the outfit. It looks like this is a practical outfit. But yeah, I love that we know who the Chancellor was during that era. I didn't know that we didn't know. Apparently we knew who the Chancellors were during a lot of the High Republic novels. But we only know up until 200 BBY. Now we know who the Chancellor was during 132 BBY. So that's actually really cool. So I like that we got to see that. And yeah, I mean, I just liked this finale. I liked the setup. I think the mind wipe thing was really neat. Introduces an interesting like way to maybe show like, instead of Sith Lords necessarily murdering their apprentices if they were inadequate, they could have just mind wiped them and returned them back to society. That way they couldn't be tracked down. So I thought that was really cool. I did think it was interesting how Venestra spun it to blame it on Sol when she was in the Senate tribunal. I liked seeing little puppet Yoda at the end. I don't think we needed to see any more than just that. I'm sure we'll see Yoda more in the second season, but yeah, so I liked that. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about the show. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos now where people are jumping on their bandwagon of going, the nightmare of the Acolyte is over. And I think to the normal, average, general audience, that's going to confuse a lot of people, because the show was not that bad. Could some characters have been more fleshed out? Yes. Could some information be revealed a little earlier? Of course, there are obvious writing problems that are persistent throughout every Star Wars show, because these shows are never given enough time to be written. They're always rushed. Executives always play a hand in tweaking scripts and everything. So I it's a problem that persists in Obi-Wan. It's a problem in Ahsoka. It was a problem in some episodes of The Mandalorian, especially in season 2. Not a problem in Andor, I'll tell you that much. That motherfucker knows how to write. And I think that's because he said he basically had no interference from the executives, and he didn't waste $1. From what I've heard, there's like little to no deleted scenes from Andor. And that's how efficient Tony Gilroy was. Sorry, I'm a big Andor lover. I love Andor. But yeah, I mean, this show had some obvious writing issues that other Star Wars shows have had before, which is unfortunate but expected at this point. Overall, I liked the concept. I love this era of Star Wars. I like that it introduced new stuff. I like that it wasn't afraid to kill off major characters. I mean, we lost so many characters, and kept the really important ones. Like, Soul's story was basically over by the time he was force choked. That was the other thing. I loved seeing, for the first time in live action, somebody bleed a kyber crystal. I think the only time we've ever seen in motion a kyber crystal bled is when that guy from the High Republic era was brought into Jedi Survivor, and he like immediately bleeds the crystal and starts to fight Cal. That was cool, and I loved seeing it be bled in a live action property. That shit's awesome. But so I liked that. Where was I going with that? Oh, I love the era. I love the concepts. I love the way that it handled lightsaber fights. I love Kymir. He's a really interesting character. I'm excited to see the dynamic between and the backstory between him and Venestra. I think there's a lot there. I'm sure High Republic writers are going to be creating fill-in books that fill in the gaps. I really hope they don't write a book about the Venestra and Kymir backstory. That will cheapen the second season so hard, because not everyone who watches the shows reads the books. Hence why the show at The Acolyte is not super reliable on like the books. They don't rely on the books very much. You don't have to know who Venestra is before you see the show. You don't need to know that she has a lightsaber whip before you watch the show, especially because then she shows the whip. It's hinted at that she gets force visions during hyperspace, which is a theme from the book. I've seen Screen Crushes theorizing that maybe she's the one that has the vision about the Chosen One prophecy, and that's where that comes from, which would be pretty interesting to kind of rewrite how the prophecy works in canon. So it has a lot of cool ideas going for it. It had a lot of cool ideas. Some of it was executed not great. Some of it was executed in an awesome way. I would give the show like a 7.5 out of 10. That's my official score of it. It's a 7.5 out of 10. Some of the episodes could have been consolidated. Some pieces could have been cut out for time and replaced with better content. And some of the writing could have been a little better. But overall, a really good show, better than Obi-Wan, because all Obi-Wan has going for it is that the last 2 episodes are awesome. Isn't it the last 2 episodes where him and Anakin fight in the flashback, and then after that he fights Vader in the next episode? I think that's how it is. But I can just look. Yeah. So, part 5 and part 6 of Kenobi. Those are the best 2 episodes. The first 4 had their ups and downs, and definitely had some weak points, but everybody universally agrees that 5 and 6 are the best 2 episodes of that show. I would say The Acolyte definitely has more good episodes than Obi-Wan. I would put it right there above Ahsoka. I would say it's like, if I were to rank all the Star Wars shows, I would say Andor, The Mandalorian. I'm excluding the animated stuff right now. Yeah, I guess The Acolyte, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka. The Book of Boba Fett is at the fucking bottom, dude. Don't even get me fucking started on the Book of Boba Fett. Oh my god, if that show had just been rewritten in a particular way, it would have been so much better. Put all the flashback stuff at the beginning of the show and show it in linear order. Please, man. Why did y'all have to write it like that? But yeah, anyways, so you know, pretty decent show. I hope the second season fills in the writing problems that the first season has. I hope they kind of tighten that up a bit. I hope it gets the same budget, if not a bigger budget, than the first season. The first season had a pretty big budget, and it really used it. I mean, it looked good as a show. The only part that didn't look good was that really old witch in episode 3. When she gets up and says something to Mother Anastasia, her face looked so bad, dude. It looked like a deep fake, like, match stretch over a costume. It looked so bad. But that was the only moment that looked horrible. So overall, the show looked pretty good. So those are my thoughts. I mean, I can keep talking about other stuff. Since this is just this week's episode, I'm not making another midweek episode for the coming days like I have been the last couple weeks. I'll talk about some other stuff. Right now, I guess by the time this comes out, the Olympics have started in France, or they're going to start. You know, I hope they keep pooping in that river. There's something about the Olympics, and it hits kind of close to home for me because Atlanta held the Olympics a few years before I was born, and I've read and watched stuff about what they did to downtown Atlanta to prep for the Olympics, and it's so fucked up. Like booking one-way bus tickets and busing the homeless people out of there, ripping down affordable housing communities to build structures for the Olympics. It's so fucked. And then once the Olympics were over, what do they do with Olympic Centennial Park? Nothing. Or Centennial Olympic Park. They don't do anything with it. There's a Ferris wheel there, and that's it. And like, they don't really do anything else. But sorry, I'm writing down when I change topics for the chapters. But that's my problem, is that the Olympics causes governments to pump funding into actually creating infrastructure that works, like new infrastructure, but then it also has devastating consequences on the population that lives there. Like LA is fixing its infrastructure for the Olympics in 2028, and I believe Atlanta is going to be doing that as well, because I think we're involved in that, in those Olympic Games as well. I think multiple areas of the U.S. are. If that's still how they're doing it, I'm not sure. But I mean, they're like fixing infrastructure in LA, but then like they're not going to maintain it once the Olympics are gone. They're only doing it for the Olympics. You already know they're going to probably like firebomb Skid Row instead of actually finding a solution to the problem, which the people have been voting yes on solutions to the problem for years now in California, and nothing's been done. The governor just keeps, falling to the pressure of HOAs to not do anything with the funds that have been allocated for the homelessness crisis. And overall, the Olympics are just like really bad for the environment. And they're just really bad for the areas that the Olympics come to. I think I watched a video from Some More News about it. He says something like only one of all the countries that have held the Olympic Winter Games can still hold the Winter Games, which is like insane that's actually a thing. But the Olympics contribute a lot to climate change and the erosion of our atmosphere. But yeah, you should watch the Some More News video on that because it's really informative. It exposed me to stuff that I didn't know about the Olympics.
It's the Olympics.
Like, yeah, it's called The Olympics Are Kinda Bad, actually, by Some More News.
Coming to your town is less a prestigious opportunity and more like a visit from the Cloverfield monster. David Cloverfield, they call him.
So yeah, it's a good video. I really think you should watch it. It really does like dive into just how much the Olympics hurt the places that they go to. And there's another video, I think I shouted it out a few weeks ago, where this guy was talking about how downtown Atlanta just doesn't have anything going on in it anymore. And it's due to the fact that like the Olympics came, destroyed that sector of downtown, and then just like they left and did nothing with it. They've never maintained it. The roads in Atlanta are shit, borderline undrivable. It's like competitive driving when you're driving through Atlanta. I've always said anything you know about driving through Atlanta or anything you know about driving, forget it. When you're in Atlanta, you don't have to stay within the lines. All you have to do is basically drive like you're fighting for your life and drive in a way that keeps you and the others around you safe. Because there are like if you pulled the same maneuvers that you're pulling in Atlanta in like a local city, like in like Marietta or Alpharetta or something, good luck. You're gonna get like pulled over or shot. If you drive in Atlanta like, oh shit, I'm about to miss my turn, and you just swerve into that lane in between two vehicles, no one cares. They get it. They know why you're doing it. But yeah, so fuck the Olympics, I guess. But enjoy watching them, I suppose. Even the World Cup is questionable. I used to watch the World Cup, and like for a bit, and after the Qatar one, I was like, yeah, I'm done. How they like used slave labor basically to build all that stuff, and then like basically just left them to fend for themselves in Qatar. The way that the government treated people coming into Qatar for the World Cup, it's disgusting. I believe the next World Cup is 2 years from now in 2026. So I wonder if they picked a place that's not scorching hot enough where they had to hold the games or hold the matches in the winter pretty much, or the late fall. But yeah, so another piece of news is that something called like CrowdStrike pushed an update and crashed like 70% of Windows users that are like business operating. It's like airlines and all these places. Today I was at the gym, and while I was working out, I was at like the machine where I'm going to talk about my workout a little bit. I want to brag. I was at the machine where you grab the thing. I even have like ripped open calluses. You grab the thing and you like pull the bar down like this without bending your elbows, and it kind of works out like this part of your body. And while I was doing that, I looked to my left, and at the front desk, the computer that they use to like scan people in is just sitting on the blue screen of death. I was like, what the fuck? And I'm watching it, and for like 20 minutes, it stayed on the blue screen of death. And I'm like, do I need to go up there and ask them if they need help? Do they not know how to turn off a blue screen of death that hangs like that? Because it was hanging on the blue screen of death where it just won't restart. And I was like, I feel like I have to go over there and be like, do you guys want me to fix this for you? But eventually, like 30 minutes later, somebody finally restarted the system. But yeah, I was like, that's crazy that nobody up there knew how to stop a blue screen of death. And also, how did it even like work? I don't know how it even works. Let me look it up. Crowdstrike outage. How does it even work? I'm seeing it. A global tech outage brought many computer systems and businesses to a screeching halt. Here's what happened. This guy gonna tell me?
Let's start with Crowdstrike. What exactly is it? And obviously, how does it play into this entire outage? It sounds like it was a glitch on an update. What does that mean?
So Crowdstrike is a cybersecurity firm that really serves the globe. It has thousands of customers. It serves a huge part of the U.S. government. It serves most states. So it's baked into a lot of infrastructure. And Crowdstrike is really about protecting Windows systems, right? Windows systems are all over the world. How do you do that? By constantly delivering updates that make sure that it gets ahead of the latest threats.
Oh,
So
that's crazy that it's tied to the Microsoft antivirus software update. Damn, Microsoft Defender or Windows Defender coming in again to fuck shit up. That's so funny.
Crowdstrike to deliver these little software updates just to ensure that everybody can't be hacked or attacked. And of course, this was not a cyber attack.
Banks, airlines, healthcare, and energy companies. I guess also the gym that I go to uses it.
It was corrupted data that was delivered. Apparently,
why would the gym have to use that?
was a corrupted file that was not caught coming out of CrowdStrike and was not caught going into all of these systems. And it went into all of these systems at once. And then, of course, the systems, Windows in particular, crashed. We got the blue screen of death. We got a lot of systems that rely on
Why is he laughing? Okay, I fucking hate these old ass motherfuckers. When the guy mentions the blue screen of death and the guy goes, because it's called the blue screen of death. Like, how fucking old are you? You don't know it's called the blue screen of death and you find that ridiculous. It's literally a blue screen that pops up and you have to restart your computer. You have no other option. Windows has failed. Sorry, that just made me mad.
Down. Xbox Live, WhatsApp, all of these different systems were unavailable.
Damn.
And of course, it affected systems like 911 in Alaska and flight systems and screens that you would just look at to get information.
I did see where at the New York Stock Exchange, they were just like screens with blue screens of death on it.
CrowdStrike delivered a bad file.
I wonder, Lance, whether this is whether it's like a flashing red alarm light or if it's sort of a silver lining in how it is revealing a vulnerability when you're talking about.
This is how I see it, is that I'm curious as to why are so many government entities and businesses and whatnot using the exact same cybersecurity system? Shouldn't it be like shouldn't it be similar to how the president and the vice president fly on separate planes, so if one plane goes down the other survives? Like, wouldn't you want to be running everything on slightly different builds of cybersecurity software, maybe even made by the same company, just to ensure that if an update goes out to one and it doesn't work, then at least not everything has gone down? I don't know. Wait, what? Sorry, now I'm on like Twitter looking for an old tweet. This person says they not only want to remove Biden, they want to remove Kamala Harris as well, and I say it's political suicide. Dude, suck my ass. We have never said that. We've been saying that Kamala Harris would be probably the better option for the ticket because she's the incumbent vice president. Oh my god, these people are fucking brain dead, dude. Anyway, back on the blue screen of death thing. Someone made a CrowdStrike mood board, which I'll show in a second. But there's another guy who's running like a really important system that runs off of Windows 10 and Windows XP. So there's 2 computers hooked up to it. Yeah, this. What is he using? Let's see. What is that exactly? Electron microscope. So he's using an electron microscope. And he tweeted out Windows 11 fucked, Windows XP unfazed. And here's the picture that he accompanied with it. Isn't that insane? Look at that visual. This top computer completely fucked. This bottom one, perfect. I love that people are still using XP. I know that XP still gets security support to some extent. So that's kind of cool. I know like certain models of it still receive security support. But here's the Crowdstrike mood board. I just think this is really funny. I know it's not like real. Like it's obviously like a Photoshop. But I don't, maybe it's not. Like it kind of looks like it, but it might not be. But I just think it's really funny. Like, why are there community notes? Yeah, this is not helpful. There. Submit. Original poster doesn't know what a mood board is. Ah, that's so funny. Yeah, it's just funny. I mean, come on now. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I love that. Anyway, these are just like funny tweets that I saw from the entire incident. Yeah. But little bit of a life update before I go. Recently I went to a concert. I've been listening to some decent music lately. I've been listening to Northlane a decent amount now. Songs like Dante, which just came out, I think, not that long ago. No, it came out last year. Dante, Clockwork, Bloodline. These are the ones in my playlist. Nova, which apparently I had been listening to years ago and forgot about. Rift. I'm listening to them. Other music is like Pull Up by Internet Girl, Magic Johnson, which is trending on TikTok right now, by Ian. My girlfriend's dad showed us Dead 7, so I've been listening to a little bit of Dead 7. I don't know how popular this band is, but it looks like it's a pretty unknown band, but they're really fucking good. Songs like Let Me Drown and Tape Mouth, I like those. But I recently went to a stacked concert. I went to a show where the headliner was Northlane, but the openers were Wind Waker, Thornhill, and Invent Anime. I've seen Thornhill before. I saw them back in February when they were opening for Silent Planet. I've seen Invent Animate. I saw them like a year ago, I want to say. Right? Yeah, I think I saw them like a year ago. I've seen I've never seen Northlane up until that point. Northlane was really good. I love the D&B metal fusion type of like fusing of the two genres type of style. Wind Waker was pretty good. Kind of like a metal rap group. I love Thornhill. They're like one of my favorite bands. Invent Anime, I like them. I just don't listen to them that much, but I do like them. But yeah, that was what I did recently. So that's the music I've been listening to as well. Podcasts I've been listening to are Fear and I've been listening to Even More News, which is Some More News' podcast. What else do I listen to? Those are all like the major podcasts I listen to. I'll occasionally tune into the Wave Squadron podcast. I don't know what they call it. I'll occasionally tune into them, especially during the time the Acolyte was airing, just because I was curious what they were saying. And I believe they're reading through the High Republic right now, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, also small update on Cody Ko. Apparently Brittany Broski deleted Royal Court. So I don't know what's going to come out between when I record this and when this episode comes out. But that's the last thing I've heard, is that Brittany Broski deleted her Royal Court episode, deleted all of their Button episodes with him and whatever else they made with him. I've yet to see what Jubilee might do. The what's it called? Emergency Intercom podcast has stopped working with TMG Studios. I really hope that he just leaves TMG Studios and that Noel just cuts ties with him. It'd be a real shame if Noel got brought down with Cody. I know a recent piece of info we've gotten is that the Riley girl another girl that Cody had been making vines with, there's a confirmed photo of her up on Cody's shoulders from a time where she would have been 17 and he would have been like 24. So I know that has come out on the sub. But yeah, I think we're going to see probably more evidence of there being a pattern of Cody possibly doing this more often. But it's just so sad to see all this go down. Yeah, here's the somebody posting proof. Proof Cody dated a 17-year-old when he was 24. I don't know if they were dating, but they were definitely pictured in the same spot. The evidence being that she turned 19 a month after, or she turned 18 a month after this photo was taken, based on her 19th birthday post. And that there's a vine of him like kissing her on the head right after she turned 18. So like they might have been dating before that. And the age of consent in Florida is 18. Even if the age of consent was 17 or 16 in other states, I hope y'all know that the age of consent laws are more so used to support Romeo and Juliet laws. That's what they are mostly meant for. It's used for like if you turn 18 and your girlfriend is still 17, like, and y'all still have sex. If the age of consent is 17, then you're usually legally in the clear on that one. States where it's 18, it's like usually you want to shy away from making it known that you're still having sex at that point. So that's usually what that's for. So like even if the age of consent was 17, him being 24, it's still illegal because she's a minor. So like federally he would be preying on a minor. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Yeah, so that's the little update on what I've heard so far. The bonus episode is on Patreon, and by the time this comes out, the bonus episode was probably publicized on my channel because I felt like it was kind of too important to not release publicly. But it's just so sad. It's so fucked up to see that this is stuff that Cody did. I can't watch him anymore, which is really unfortunate. And you know, I hope the people that are like victims in this situation, I hope they're doing well. And I hope Tana's doing well too. Cause I mean, she mentions it like it's very nonchalant, not the biggest deal ever, but like I'm sure she understands the weight of that type of situation. Anyways, that is all. Thank you for watching. We are on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Music. If you want to listen to the audio version of these episodes, like maybe if you're like a DoorDash driver, an Uber Eats driver, and you just want the audio version in the background and not waste your phone battery, the audio version's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Music. So it's also on Patreon if you want to go support the podcast and sub on Patreon. If people sub, then I'll start making more bonus content. But for right now, it's mainly just to support the podcast. But yeah. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.